Today, I finally get to talk about the Arctis Nova Elite from SteelSeries. On one hand, we have the best overall wireless audio system I've ever seen. It's a massive level up to the Nova Pro. Wildly improved audio, wildly improved mic system, and an even crazier feature set that allows for audio mixing on up to 4 different sources. Now, on the other hand, we have one of the highest price points we've ever seen for a wireless gaming headset. This thing costs a staggering $599 US. The only reason I can even say one of is because the tournament grade Zone A-Rides exists at $1199. $600 can buy you a lot of audio, especially in the wired space, and people love to point out on these videos that wired setups sound better and cost way less than wireless, and like 95% of the time that's true, but it ignores the fact that people buy wireless for the convenience of wireless. Even still, $600 can buy you a top-tier wireless headset and a decent little wired setup. So with this release, SteelSeries is trying to carve out a whole new category of ultra-premium luxury audiophile gaming headset. For this to work, this Elite has to be taken seriously as a high-end audio product and not just a gaming audio product. At this price, that means this has to deliver like nothing we've ever seen before, and I have to review it accordingly. So the basic bones of the Nova Elite are similar to what we've seen on the Nova Pro. We've still got the base station, we still have the hot swap infinite battery system where you have one battery charging while you're using the other. First impression, this thing feels very premium in hand. It's weighty. It comes in at like 383 grams versus 341 on the Arctis Nova Pro. You can't get this in black with black chrome accents, but my copy is the sage and gold. It looks insane, and they carry the gold over to the dial on the base station. For this price though, I would have liked to see the black housing also done in sage to match. It also included as an aux cable, 3 USB to USB-A cables, the extra battery, a windscreen for the mic, and a color-matched soft carry bag. It does feel pretty premium for like a carry bag, but at this price, I would have expected to see a hard travel case here. It's a very similar design to what we've seen before on the headset, but everything just looks a touch more premium. The headband's wrapped in faux leather. I think the swivel and the adjustments are metal now. If they're not, it's really hard to tell. We've got gold metallic logo hits on the outside of the cups, and they're no longer ridged, which were really hard to keep clean. The volume wheel looks crazy. For something aimed at the luxury market, I think there's a big missed opportunity here in not having the swivels and the volume wheel feel dampened. That always adds such a high-end feel to stuff. The smaller buttons don't quite feel as nice, and they do still have like a plasticky ping sound to them while you're wearing the headset. These ear pads feel stupid nice. They're still faux leather, but they're extremely soft. They feel like calfskin. Much nicer than even the revised pads on the new gens of the Nova Pro. These are great. I did notice the internal foam gasket around the edge is a lot thicker than the pads on the Pro. Happy to report they're keyed exactly the same as any aftermarket pads you may have for the Nova Pro, including Joe's pads he did with Wicked cushions, though you'll probably need to EQ them differently due to the new drivers. As for comfort, these are pretty much the same as we've seen from this style before. I still wear these at almost nearly the max adjustment with the headband moved up one notch. There is some minor clamping force here, nothing serious. The pads do get pretty toasty like we've seen on previous versions. Even with the added weight though, I'll give these like a 7.5 out of 10 for comfort. They're not up there with like the ROG Delta 2, the Turtle Beach Atlas Air, or the Alienware Pro. On the Nova Pros, there's a little distance in the performance between the wired and the wireless versions. The wired version is high-res certified. The wireless is capped at 24-bit, 48 kilohertz, and the frequency response for wireless only goes up to 22,000 hertz. Now, SteelSeries has earned the high-res wireless certification, the first, if I'm not mistaken. You may not put a lot of stock in the certification itself, but there's something to be said for a wireless version that performs as well as its wired counterpart, so I don't want to minimize their achievement. And the Elite's doing 24-bit, 96 kilohertz, even in 8-channel mode via sonar. Even though Windows might show sonar outputting to your Arctis Pro at 2496, you'll always be limited by what the base station can receive, and that's 2448. If that were the only difference, this would probably sound nearly identical to the Pro, but they've developed a custom carbon fiber driver for these Elites. These are 40 millimeters with a brass surround, so it's a really rigid assembly. There's always a lot of marketing talk about driver material, whether it's graphene or titanium or whatever, and in practice, I've never really had the driver material make a huge difference to me, so I was pretty skeptical when they started talking to me about these. What I can tell you is that the detail on these is shockingly good for a wireless headset. These distance themselves from most everything on the market, and they're right up there with the best I've heard. So there's a big question there, right? You know what it is. Does the Elite sound better than the Odyssey Maxwell? I'll answer that in just a minute. I want to quickly look at measurements for only 2 reasons. First, this is what the driver matching looks like on my copy of the Nova Pro wireless. The closer these lines are together, the better our imaging is in game. That means it makes it easier for us to tell which direction sound is coming from. Now, this is what it looks like on the Elite. This is insanely good and something we generally only see on audiophile products, not gaming audio products. The other reason to look at measurements is the tuning. Again, here is the Nova Pro with the ANC on and a flat EQ, and the little dashed line is the Harman curve, or what most consumers first think sounds good. So we're light in the low end and have a pretty good boost in the upper mids. If you've heard me talk about this headset before, I use words like stark, clinical, technical, i.e. not full. Great for gaming, definitely not my first choice for music listening. And here is the Elite tuning with the ANC on. Much better on the low end, less of a boost in the high mids, though still a little boost in those high mids. A nice little cut here in this area that can sometimes sound harsh. This is personally pretty close to how I like my stuff to sound. This is a warm tune, so it's really full in the low end. The highs are a little softer, so it's not quite as bright or as open in the high end. The bass sometimes can maybe be a little much. This is all personal preference though, so keep that in mind as we go through this. We're gonna start with music listening, which I don't normally do, but the biggest thing this headset has working against it is that it says SteelSeries on the side. If I sat you down, blindfolded you, and I had a really romantic evening planned, put these on your head and told you they were the new Sony or Bang & Olufsen, most consumers would go, wow, these sound really incredible. Most gaming headsets for music are okay or tolerable if you're not an audiophile or whatever other way you want to say fine, not great. I find these very enjoyable for music listening. The detail on these makes for a very revealing listening experience. Depending on what you're coming from for a regular setup, there's a very high probability that you're going to hear things you've never heard before in your favorite tracks. If a track is mixed or mastered poorly, you're going to hear that. When something is mixed well, it's extremely satisfying. REM's Find the River, great example. I think the flat EQ with ANC on is the best tune for pretty much any genre that's not bass heavy. I don't like really any of the presets. They don't sound like they're made for this headphone. They over-exaggerate whatever they're trying to do. Like if you put a V-shape EQ on top of this, it's going to be really overbaked because the stock tune already presents that way. You do have access to a truly great graphic parametric EQ with SteelSeries, and it's best to just slightly nudge whatever you want to hear more or less of. There's no need to be heavy-handed with these. So will these do bass? Yeah. And sub-bass. If you're listening to bass-heavy music and you're running with the ANC on, it'll be a lot more controlled and the highs might be a little too bright. Turn the ANC off and it's an extra helping of bass. It's fun, but only on bass-heavy music. Overall, this is a very capable and flexible audio experience, and so all the things that make it good at music listening also translate over to gaming where the bar is not quite so high. Great directional performance. Remember those channel matching stats? They deliver here. Detail? Check. The ability to really dial in EQ for what you're trying to hear in your game? Check. The combination of detail and flexibility really wins here. For FPS, you'll just need to grab an EQ preset that really cuts out the low end and you'll have some real wall hack moments here. And these are equally good in single player experiences where you want a little more bass and atmosphere. When it comes to soundstage and single player gaming, it can feel a little tight in its stock mode. You can go into Sonar and turn on the spatial in there, and the midpoint between performance and immersive makes for a pretty solid open world gaming experience. I wouldn't use this for FPS. If you're playing COD specifically, go with Dolby Atmos headphone on the PC, otherwise just run them stock. All the spatial stuff is supported on the consoles too. And I like the fact that the flat EQ is the best EQ. I think it always makes a really good impression when you take something out of the box, put it on, and it just sounds good, instead of you trying to figure out what you have to do to make it sound good. So now the million-dollar question, does this sound better than the Audeze Maxwell? I listened to both for hours across different days, tons of different genres, played with different EQs. For gaming, I think it's as good. For music listening, I don't think it dethrones the Maxwell. When I listen to only the Elite for a long stretch, I get used to the warmth. It sounds great to me. But then when I listen to the Maxwell back to back, it feels like a veil has been lifted. The high end just really comes to life, and for anything that's not rap or EDM, the bass feels perfectly measured. Not too much, it's just right. Even setting up a custom EQ to try to mirror the Maxwell exactly didn't pan out because the Maxwell's on planar magnetic drivers. Now we all hear things a little differently, and personal preference is exactly that. And I'm not saying that the Elite lags way behind the Maxwell. All I'm saying is that for me, practically nothing in the gaming space sounds as good as the Elite, while nothing sounds as good as the Maxwell. Straight to the point here, the mic on the Elite is very good, and I think this is a strong contender for best wireless headset mic period, which you would expect at this price point. You're hearing this totally raw, no sonar, no tweaks in post. It is a little nasally in the flat EQ, but a wild improvement from the Pro. For whatever reason, the wireless headset market is filled with products that either do one thing or a few things really well, and then they miss the mark major in one area. My two biggest recommendations, the Maxwell and the Arctis Nova Pro wireless, both fall pretty short in the mic department, as you can hear. After testing like 90% of what's on the market, before the Elite launched, I would have called it a tie between the Astro A50 Gen 5 and the Black Shark V2 Pro for best wireless mic. The Black Shark V3 Pro stumbled out of the gate, and even though Razer was very quick with an alternate mic EQ, a lot of people really didn't care for the fix. That's understandable. It didn't really have the same magic that the original V2 had, even though it had less transmission noise. Now that the Elite is here, I went back and forth between this and the Astro A50 Gen 5 a lot, and
man, it's close for me. The A50 just has that nice, laid-back, warm tone. It's a little stuffy, but it doesn't sound wireless. It sounds natural. It just sounds like the bass is EQ'd a little too high. Now we're hearing it with the broadcast low-pitch mic EQ on in the engine software, and I think I could probably record videos with this. I love the tonality. The background is super quiet, but I'm still getting like that slightly edgy, robotic artifacting that reminds you that it's a wireless mic. A lot of it'll be subjective, but I think any way you go, the top three are now this, the Astro A50, and the Razer Black Shark V2 Pro. You come down another tier, you've got the ROG Delta 2 and the Razer Black Shark V3 Pro, and then under that is like everything else. On those others, you're just gonna have to trust me, bro, for now, because I'll be back in like 3 to 4 weeks with the big top 5 wireless headset video for the year, and we'll listen to all those mic tests back to back. This boom mic is really flexible this time around, and another crazy thing here is that when you push this all the way back in, don't hit mic mute, you automatically move over to beamform mics. These come in quite a bit hotter, a few dB louder than the boom mic. These are as good or better than like AirPod mics or a webcam mic if you're on a call. More room noise, obviously, but the vocal here is very good. It is kind of funny to me because the boom mic is literally attached to the headset, so it's not like a convenience thing. These are provided almost exclusively so that people don't see you using a boom mic. We do have side tone here with separate adjustments for both the boom and the beamforms, as well as background noise rejection for both, and you still have the AI Clearcast noise rejection in Sonar too. Side tone works well here in terms of volume. I do run it maxed out, and one thing to note here is that if you run this at level 9 or above, you will start to introduce some background hiss. That's kind of the nature of side tone though, because you're opening the mic to the outside world and then you're piping that directly back into your ears. So for the times when you want the absolute best audio quality, just kill the side tone.
So I've long praised the Nova Pro wireless for its feature set, and the Elite only expands on that. The hot swap battery system is still here. You still have aux in and out on the base station, so you can wire inline to use both the headset and the mic with your streaming setup like a Go XLR. You still have aux on the headset itself for that matter. You still have ANC that performs extremely well. The base station isn't just for looks. It controls basically every aspect of the hardware minus the Sonar specific features. The on-head controls are really deep and really smart. You have separate EQing for both your 2.4 gigahertz connection and your Bluetooth connection. A handful of SteelSeries more recent headsets can take advantage of the Arctis app, so you can change settings and have EQ like when you're on console, and the Pro has not been able to take advantage of that. This Elite now allows app use, so you get like 200 plus EQ presets for the times when you're not on PC. You can adjust your EQ while you're still in game listening to the game. Believe it or not, even high-end products with a mobile app like the Odyssey Maxwell haven't managed that yet. And now you can have both your Xbox and your PlayStation connected to the base station alongside your PC and your wired aux and Bluetooth. And instead of only being able to mix one 2.4 source and your Bluetooth, you can now mix up to 4 different sources, including your console, your PC, Bluetooth, and wired aux. 4 sources at the same time. And you'd probably think that would really tear up the connection and sound awful, but it doesn't. It feels like magic. Super easy to control too. You just click the volume wheel on your head and it allows you to mix between the 2 USB devices. So Bluetooth and aux both get adjusted on those devices themselves. For regular players, this is definitely overkill, but for streamers, this can be a very powerful tool set. Initially, when they were telling me about all these features, it felt like I was watching an infomercial from the early 90s. Like I had no idea what they were gonna hit me with next. This is really important. We have Game Chat Mix available on the PC side via Sonar. It is available on Xbox, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to be compatible with PlayStation's chat. Outside of that, the only thing not offered here is the insane HDMI routing capabilities of the Astro A50X, which makes it more aligned for home theater setups. So that's a lot. Quick recap. We have all the same functionality of the Pro, plus we add multi-console support, 4-way simultaneous mixing, and Arctis app support, new carbon fiber drivers, greatly improved audio like top 2 in the industry, a mic that's top 3 in the industry, beamform mics that are surprisingly good, and it looks and feels opulent in hand. It's nice. But it's $600. For a price like that, it's either going to be for somebody with a lot of discretionary income or it needs to be somebody's everything. A wireless system that's going to handle all of their gaming needs and all of their music listening needs, and I don't know how realistic that is. First off, you don't have to spend anywhere close to $600 to get good gaming audio. $600 can get you an entry-level DAC amp, an IEM, and an open back headphone. $600 can get you the wireless gaming headset of your choosing, and you'll still have like bare minimum $250 left over. And yeah, you can use this as your travel noise canceling Bluetooth headphone too, if that helps justify the cost, but again, that travel case would have been nice. As a reviewer, this leaves me conflicted. I know they're not going to sell a lot of these. This is a true flagship, a no-holds-barred, budget-be-damned flagship. They didn't have to make these. It's not like they were getting pressed by competitors at this price point. I got to talk to some of the designers behind this, and what I heard was a lot of love and a lot of years that went into making this. Not as a reviewer, just as a person who's always been interested interested in stuff like this, I love to see stuff like this. But as a reviewer, it feels really irresponsible for me to hype this up like you need to rush out and go get it when there's so much you could explore in audio with a budget like this. All I can do is tell you what it is. I can't tell you how to spend your money. I personally probably would not make this purchase based on my use case, but if this is a good fit for you, if it does something you've been waiting for, I can't imagine you being disappointed with this. It earns the name Elite, and it's an extremely impressive piece of gear. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Stay up.